Assalamu alaikum, all my dear students. How are you all? Today we are going to start with the histology of the bone tissue. Bone is also known as the osseous tissue. So we are going to discuss the bone tissue. It is a specialized type of connective tissue. So as we have discussed that bone is a specialized connective tissue, as you remember, we did connective tissue in detail and we discussed that connective tissue is going to have two main components: cellular components, the cells of the connective tissue, and the extracellular component, which was known as the extracellular matrix. So just like that, it is a connective tissue, so it is going to have cells and extracellular matrix. And in the extracellular matrix, do you remember we did that in the extracellular matrix you studied about the fibers, different fibers, and then you studied about the ground substance, in which you studied different GAGs, glycosaminoglycans, mucopolysaccharides. So just like that, remember that overview, and which we are going to take up here as well. So bone being a specialized connective tissue, it is going to be composed of cells as well as extracellular matrix. There are four main cells which are you see in the bone. They are your osteoprogenitor cells, osteocytes, osteoblasts, and osteoclasts, which we are going to take up each one in detail. Histology of each one is important, and histology of each one can come in your exams. Extracellular matrix of the bone includes organic component as well as inorganic component. Organic component is going to include your fiber and your GAGs and your glycoproteins. So in organic component, the fiber that is predominantly present in the bone tissue is your collagen fibers. And in collagen, variety type 1 is the predominant type in bone tissue. And for the GAGs and glycoproteins, you are going to have different mucopolysaccharides here and non-collagenous proteins as well. And inorganic components of the extracellular matrix is going to include the ions, the mineral ions that give bone its hardness and strength. And these are going to include calcium ions, phosphorus ion, which is going to make up a crystal known as hydroxyapatite crystal. So when you section the bone, you need to section the bone and put it on a slide, stain it to view the different cells and to view the different fibers in it. Bone is a very hard tissue, students. So to section it, we need special knives, special microtome knives to cut this very solid and hard tissue. And the specialized knife to cut the bone tissues are known as diamond knife. They have a diamond blade and they can cut this hard, very hard tissue. Then we need to take out the mineral ions which give hardness to the bone, and there is a chemical known as EDTA, which is a calcium chelator. It is going to decalcify the bone, and then you can easily cut the bone with a microtome and then embed it over the glass slides and then section it, stain it with the stains. You can visualize the bone with HNE, but to see the individual cells we need special staining for this. The commonly used stains are the gold stains for the to see the different cells of the bone tissue. Coming on to the functions of the bone, you know that bones provide solid support for the body. They protect your vital organs. The rib cage, sternum is protecting your thoracic viscera, including heart and lungs. Skull is your cranium, and skull is protecting your brain. Then bone tissue is also a harbor for your and a reservoir and a hematopoietic tissue as well. It is going to produce the blood cells as well. Then bone tissue is a reservoir for mineral ions. It is going to store and release calcium and phosphate ions when needed, and then it is going to store fat as well in the bone marrow cavities. It also facilitates the locomotory movements of the body by providing attachment to the different muscles. So these are the different functions of bones. So just I've told you that bone is a specialized connective tissue, and being a connective tissue, it is going to be composed of cells as well as extracellular matrix. Bone cells that make up the bone, you must know four main cells. The osteogenic cells or the osteogenic progenitor cells, they are the stem cells which are going to divide and give rise to other bone cells. Then osteocytes, which are the mature bone cells and they maintain the bone tissue. Osteoblasts, which form the bone matrix, and then osteoclasts, which help in the resorption of the bones. We are going to discuss each one of them in detail, and you can get the histology of any one of them to write about any one, and you can get a question to enlist the bone cells, and you can get a question what is the composition of bone tissue. So if you get a question of composition of bone tissue, you have to describe bone cells as well as the extracellular matrix. So now coming on to the extracellular matrix. In the extracellular matrix of the bone, it comprises of organic and inorganic matter. And inorganic matter represents about 50% of the dry weight of the bone matrix. Calcium hydroxyapatite is most abundant. But you also have bicarbonate, citrate, magnesium, potassium, sodium ions are also found in the bone tissue. So inorganic component is going to be made of different salts and minerals, and it is about 50% of the dry mass. Hydroxyapatite is a specialized crystalline form of calcium phosphate, but other crystals and other salts are also present. The significant quantities of amorphous calcium phosphates are also present. The surface ions of hydroxyapatite crystals are hydrated. There is a layer of water around the crystal that facilitates the exchange of ions between minerals and the body fluid. And this layer of water around this crystalline form is known as the hydration shell. And rest of the 50% mass is the organic material. It includes your fibers, which include predominantly there is collagen type 1 fibers. And in the proteoglycans and the glycoproteins are also present in the bone. The GAG that is predominant here is chondroitin sulfate, but the 95% of the organic matter is collagen fibers and predominantly collagen type 1. 5% are your ground substance, which include proteoglycan, glycoproteins. GAG here is chondroitin sulfate. Glycoprotein present in the bone are osteonectin, osteopoietin, and osteocalcine. These are the calcium binding glycoproteins, and they help to bind calcium ions. Apart from these glycoproteins and proteoglycans, you have growth factors in the bone as well, which help in the growth of the bones. And these includes TGF beta, BMPs, IGF, and PDGF. 25% of the matrix is gel-like, and it is contains your water. Because of the high level of collagen content in the decalcified bone matrix, the bone matrix is usually acidophilic. It is pinkish in color because of the high level amount of collagen type 1 fibers present in it. The association of minerals with collagen fibers during calcification is responsible for the hardness and resistance of the bone tissue. So minerals associated with the collagen fibers give the bone a hard and resistant texture to the bone. After bone is decalcified, its shape is preserved, but it becomes highly flexible. So the calcium ion is going to give it hardness. Coming on to the cells of the bone, there are 4 main cells, but the 5th one is also there. The 4 cells are the osteocytes. Osteocyte, the word is derived from the Greek word osteon. Osteon is the word that means bone, and cyte is derived from the word chitos, which means cells. So osteocyte is the bone cell which are found in the cavities called lacunae. Lacunae you have already studied in the cartilage as well. They are the houses which house these cells. In the cartilage they house the chondrocytes. Here they house the osteocytes. So osteocytes are the bone cells which are found in the bone lacunae and between the bone matrix layer known as the lamellae. They have cytoplasmic processes which extend into the small canaliculi. Canaliculi, the word is derived from the Latin word canalis, which means canal. And these canaliculi are going to link the different lamellae. So bone cells, osteocytes, they are residing in the houses known as lacunae, and they have cytoplasmic thin cylindrical cytoplasmic processes which extend into the bone canaliculi, and these canaliculi are going to link one osteocyte to another. They are the mature bone cells. They are almond in shape, flattened. Then you have osteoblast. Osteoblast, blasts mean a Greek word that means germ, but they are going to synthesize the organic component of the bone matrix. They are going to form they are the immature bone cells, and they secrete the osteoid, which is the organic component of the bone matrix. Osteoid is the first layer of the bone matrix that is laid down by these cells, and they don't have calcium ion deposition uh, in them. Then you have the osteogenic cells, or the osteogenic progenitor cells. They are the stem cells which are going to divide and give rise to the different cells, and they are going to form your osteoblasts and osteocytes, and they are going to be present on the both inner and external surfaces of the bone. They are going to be present on the periosteum on the external surface and endosteum on the internal surface. Then you have osteoclasts. Osteoclast, the word osteo is for bone, and clast, the word is derived from clastos, which means broken. They are multinucleated giant cells, and they are derived from the monocyte macrophage system, and they are help in the remodeling of the bone tissue, and they excrete acid and enzyme to dissolve the bone matrix, osteoclast. So you have osteocytes, the mature bone cells, osteoblasts, the immature bone cells which lay the organic component of the bone matrix, osteogenic progenitor cells which are the stem cells, and osteoclastic cells which are the multinucleated phagocytic cells. And then you have the bone lining cells which line the bones, and they are also present on the inner and outer surfaces. So now we are going to discuss each cell in detail. Osteoprogenitor cells. Progenitor means they are going to be the precursors for the other bone cells. So they arise from mesenchymal cells. Osteoprogenitor cells arise from mesenchymal cells. They are located on the outer layer of the bone known as periosteum, in inner surface known as endosteum. They line the Haversian canals, Volkmann canal. They have thin cylinder shape, and they have long cells, elongated nucleus, light staining. They have endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi, mitochondria. Their function is to give rise to the bone cells known as osteoblast, and they help in the bone regeneration and repair. Next is osteoblast. Osteoblasts are the bone forming cells. Their origin is from the osteogenic progenitor cells. They line the surface of the bone. The shape, regarding their shape, they are cuboidal to columnar in shape and have a very basophilic cytoplasm. They synthesize and secrete organic component of the bone matrix, including type 1 collagen fibers, the proteoglycans, and the glycoproteins such as osteonectin. Deposition of inorganic component of the bone also depends on the viability of the osteoblast. Mature osteoblasts are located exclusively at the surface of the bone matrices, usually side by side in a layer-like fashion resembling a epithelium. When actively engaged in matrix synthesis, osteoblasts have a cuboidal to columnar shape and basophilic cytoplasm. When they are synthesizing, activity declines, they flatten and the basophilia is reduced. Inactive osteoblasts represent most of the flattened bone lining cells in the endosteum and the periosteum. So when they are highly engaged in the synthesis of the organic component, they have a columnar to cuboidal shape, and when they are done with the synthesizing activity, they lose their basophilia and they become the bone lining cells. This was the other variety, bone lining cells. During matrix synthesis, osteoblasts have ultrastructure of cells actively synthesizing proteins for secretion. Their matrix component are secreted at the cell surface in contact with the bone matrix. They form a layer of material known as osteoid. Osteoid is the newly formed bone matrix which is not yet calcified. Later on, there is a deposition of calcium salts, and that converts into the mature bone. Calcification of matrix is not until it is not completed, it is known as osteoid. And after deposition of the calcium ion, it becomes your bone tissue. Predominantly among the non-collagen proteins secreted by osteoblast is vitamin K-dependent polypeptide osteocalcin, which together with the glycoproteins bind calcium ions and raises their concentration locally. Osteoblasts also screen membrane-bound matrix vesicles rich in alkaline phosphatase and other enzymes whose activity raises the local concentration of the phosphatine. With high concentration of both calcium and phosphate ion, these vesicles serve as a foci for formation of hydroxyapatite crystal, which is the first step for calcification. So osteoblast is going to form the organic component and inorganic component, and later on they are going to excrete different ions and cytokines for the osteoclastic stimulating receptors. So they are going to also form receptors for the osteoclasts. Markers for the osteoblastic activity include alkaline phosphatase and osteocalcin, as these are secreted by osteoblast, alkaline phosphatase and osteocalcin. So now we are going to discuss the mineralization of the bone matrix. We know that osteoblasts, they are going to secrete the bony matrix, and they secrete collagen type 1 fibers, different glycoproteins and proteoglycans. Some notable ones are the osteonectin, osteocalcin and osteopoietin, which is going to bind calcium ion as they have high affinity for calcium ions. Osteoblasts at their surfaces near the bone matrix are going to release small membrane-bound vesicles, and these vesicles have an enzyme known as alkaline phosphatase, which is going to help. Enzymes are going to hydrolyze the phosphate ion and release the phosphate ions, and this is going to increase the amount of calcium and phosphorus in the developing bone matrix. So this organic component, which includes collagen fibers and the glycosaminoglycans, are being produced by these, and the collagen fibers, first you can see, are randomly arranged. When these the vesicles, they are going to bind the phosphate ions and form the nanovesicles. They are going to help in the arrangement of collagen fibers in a regular arrangement. And when more and more calcium ions, phosphate ions are going to bind with these vesicles, they are going to get calcified, and this osteoid is later going to form mineralized bone. So osteoblast is first going to form osteoid, which doesn't have calcium deposition. Later with the speech area, which represent the calcium deposition, with the increased deposition of calcium and phosphorus, you are going to have the mineralized bone. So first osteoblast, they are going to secrete various organic components, collagen type 1 fibers, randomly arranged matrix vesicles which have alkaline phosphatase, glycoproteins known as osteocalcin, osteonectin, osteopoietin, which are going to trap calcium ions. Then with the deposition of these vesicles, they are going to be a regular arrangement of collagen type 1 fibers, and around these vesicles calcium ion and phosphate ions are going to deposit. Hydroxyapatite crystals are going to form, and this osteoid layer is then going to convert into mineralized form known as bone. Bone lining cells are the osteoblasts, which remain after they have done with the process of bone deposition, and they remain on the surface of the bone. The cells which are present on the external surface of the bones are known as periosteal cells, and they line the periosteum of the bone, and which are present on the inner surface of the bone, they are known as endosteal cells. But the function of them is to regulate the calcium and phosphorus minerals, and they support the developing osteocytes. Osteocytes, they are the mature bone cells surrounded by the bone matrix. They are almond shaped, flat in shape, and they arise from the osteoprogenitor cells or the osteoblast. One lacunae contains only one osteocyte in comparison to the cartilage, where one lacunae could house in 2, 4, 8 chondrocytes. They are flat, almond shaped, and they have thin cylindrical processes which project into the canaliculi. Many osteoblasts are gradually surrounded by the material they secreted and differentiate further as osteocytes enclosed in singly within lacunae that are regularly spaced throughout the mineralized matrix. In transition from osteoblasts to osteocytes, the cells extend long dendritic process which also becomes surrounded by calcifying matrix. Osteocytic processes then come to occupy many canaliculi which radiate from each lacunae. Diffusion of metabolites between osteocytes and blood vessels occur through these canaliculi. And osteocytes also communicate with one another via gap junctions on the dendritic processes in the canaliculi and on the osteoblast and bone lining cells. So these canaliculi, which are the cytoplasmic processes of osteocyte, they help to communicate one osteocyte with another, and they help in the exchange of metabolites and they have gap junctions in them. When compared to osteoblasts, they are flat, almond shaped, and they have less rough endoplasmic reticulum Golgi. They have a more condensed nucleus. These cells maintain the bone matrix, and their death is followed by rapid matrix resorption. Osteocytes express a different array of genes compared to osteoblasts. Osteocyte produce products, osteocyte products such as protein sclerostin and certain cytokines help in the bone remodeling. Extensive lacunar canalicular network of osteocytes and then communication with all other bone cells suggest additional roles for osteocyte in calcium hemostasis and as sensors for detection of mechanical stress that help in bone remodeling. So there is a theory that the network of the dendritic process that extends from osteocyte act as sensor detecting mechanical stresses, which can detect the mechanical stress on the bone, and they can help in the bone remodeling. Now coming on to osteoclast. Osteoclasts are very large, about 150 microns in diameter, motile cells with multiple nuclei. Up to 50 to 100 nuclei have been reported, and they play a major role in metric resorption. They are bone-eating cells, resorb the bone and help during the bone growth and remodeling. The large size and multinucleated condition of osteoclasts are due to their origin from fusion of bone marrow derived cells. So they are derived from bone marrow precursor cells, monocyte macrophage system, phagocytic system. Osteoclast development requires two polypeptides produced by osteoblast macrophage colony stimulating factor and the receptor activator for nuclear factor ligand, RANKL. So their activation needs to development requires two polypeptides which are produced by osteoblasts. So osteoblasts produce two polypeptides which are going to activate the formation of osteoclast, and these are the RANKL protein and the CSF, the osteoblast macrophage colony stimulating factor. And these on the surface facing the bone matrix, they have irregular projections. The osteoclasts are large cell, multinucleated. There is a common question: describe the histological features of osteoclast and draw the osteoclast. So you're going to draw a large cell with multinucleated, and their surface that faces the bone matrix is thrown into irregular projection or folds, and this surface and this border is known as ruffled border. Surrounding the ruffled border is a cytoplasmic zone known as a clear zone, which do not have any organelle. And when the osteoclast is eating up the bone, it forms sealing points over the bone matrix, and through these ruffled border, it is going to release in the enzymes for the resorption of the bone. And the places where they lie, their depressions where osteoclasts lie, are known as Hauschilp's lacunae. So osteoclasts lie within enzymatically etched depressions or cavities in the bone matrix known as resorption cavities or resorption bays or Hauschilp's lacunae. In active osteoclasts, the surface against the bone matrix is thrown into irregular projections known as ruffled border, surrounded by a cytoplasmic rich zone rich in actin filaments, which is a site for adhesion to the matrix. Then into the subcellular pockets, the osteoclast secretes collagenases, cathepsin K, and different enzymes, and it has hydrogen pumps which create an acidic environment to dissolve the hydroxyapatite matrix. Osteoclast activity is controlled by local signaling factors and hormones. Osteoclasts have receptors for calcitonin, thyroid hormones, and osteoclasts are activated by parathyroid hormone produced CSF, the macrophage colony stimulating factor, RANKL, and other factors that regulate the formation and activity of osteoclasts. So osteoclastic activity also depends on the activity of osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are going to activate the activity of osteoclasts by producing RANKL and MCSF. So here you can see the different cells of the bone. The bone lining cells on the outer surface, these then flat cells, the bone lining cells, then they become the osteoblasts, the cuboidal or columnar cells. And then you can see osteoclasts, the multinucleated large cells. And when the osteoblast is excreting the organic component, you can see the brown organic component, and when the inorganic calcium ions are laid down, it becomes the mature bone matrix. And in the mature bone matrix, you have these element shaped cells residing in the lacunae known as osteocytes. So this diagram is also showing you the cells found in the bone. You have the osteogenic progenitor cells deriving from the mesenchymal cells. Then osteogenic progenitor cells can give rise to osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are columnar in shape, columnar to cuboidal, and rest of the osteogenic progenitor cells, when they have made the osteoblast, they rest of them become the bone lining cells. And then you have osteoclastic cells. Osteoclast are not derived from osteoblast or mesenchymal cells, but they have a different lineage. They are derived from mononuclear macrophage system, from the hemopoietic system. And when mononuclear cells, they fuse multinucleated, they become multinucleated, and phagocytic, they become osteoclasts. So from the mesenchymal stem cells, you have osteoprogenitor cells. Osteoprogenitor cells give rise to osteoblasts, and osteoblasts, when they mature, they form osteocytes. And when osteoblasts have given rise, mature to osteocyte, the rest of them, they stay as bone lining cells. So these are the different cellular cells of the bones. So this comic strip is showing you the difference between osteoblast and osteocyte. Osteoblast, you can see it is written Miss Osteoblast and Mrs. Osteocyte. Miss Osteoblast, blast is the immature bone cell. It is living in a free world, it is restless, it is giving rise to osteocyte. And osteocyte is Mrs. Osteocyte, is the mature bone cell. It has now settled. You can see Miss to Mrs. Now it represents that it is now married. It is now going to reside in a house, and this house is known as lacunae. And then it is going to have relations with other cells in the present in that house, just like a girl, when she weds, she becomes Mrs. and she goes to live in another house. Then she develops relations with other, she has relation with her husband, different relatives, family members. So these are showing gap junctions, the cytoplasmic processes. This Mrs. Osteocyte is representing the osteocyte, and the blue surrounding area is its lacunae, its new house. And then it has these hands, which are its cytoplasmic processes, which it extends into these blue cylindrical canaliculi, with which it has relations with other cells. So this is a comic strip between osteoblast and osteocyte. I hope you like it. This is a diagrammatic representation of an osteoclast. You can see multinucleated osteoclast, and where it faces the bone matrix, it has ruffled border. And in over the ruffled border, you can see vesicles, which are going to have different enzymes for bone resorption, and it resides in a specialized house known as resorption bay or Hauschiff's lacunae. Where the osteoclasts are going to dissolve the bone, they attach themselves to the bone by two anchoring proteins known as the osteopoietin and the sialoproteins. So how does osteoclast resorb bone? Osteoclast has a ruffled border to increase the surface area for resorption, and where it is going to resorb the bone, it is going to seal that area and form sealing zone or clear zone. And from the ruffled border, it is going to secrete different enzymes, and there are going to be hydrogen pump ions in there, which are going to produce an acidic environment for the resorption of bone. So osteoclast is a large cell with several nuclei derived by fusion or fusion in bone of several bone-derived monocytes. It resides in a specialized resorption cavities on the bone matrix surface, and it is going to form tightly bind the matrix and surround a ruffled border, which is going to be cytoplasmic projection close to the bone matrix. The cytoplasmic projection of this cell, they are known as ruffled border. Then it is going to seal the space between this matrix and the bone, bone matrix and the cell. It is going to create a sealing space, and then the matrix is acidified to pH less than 4 by proton pumps located in the osteoclast membrane, and it is going to secrete different hydrolytic enzymes. by exocytosis. Acidification of the this space is going to help in the dissolution of calcium apatite crystals from the bone and create an optimal pH for activity of lysosomal hydrolases. Bone matrix is then resolved with the product of bone digestion released for reuse and calcium carbonate and other ion released for uptake by the blood. So in the ruffled border, it is going to create a microenvironment of low pH, and that low pH is going to be created by the hydrogen pump ions. And these in these acidic environment, different lysosomal enzymes are going to act on the bone matrix and dissolve the bone. This picture is showing an interaction between osteoclast and osteoblast. Osteoclasts are in fact activated by osteoblasts. And how they are activated by osteoblasts? Osteoblasts are first activated by parathyroid hormone, and they produced MCSF. MCSF is a macrophage colony stimulating factor, and they also produce rankle. Rankle is a receptor activated nuclear factor ligand. So in the presence of parathyroid hormone and vitamin D, the osteoblasts are going to produce MCSF and rankle. These two genes are going to activate the osteoclast. They have receptors on the osteoclast, and when they bind to the osteoclast, they are going to help in the resorption of the bone, releasing the lysozymes and the acids. This diagram is also representing the rank pathway, the Rankle pathway. Rank ligand is on the osteoblast and the merostromal cells. Rank receptor is present on the osteoclast, and this allows the osteoclast to carry out its activity. So the osteoblasts are going to form the rank ligand and the MCSF, and when they bind to the osteoclast is going to act and cause bone resorption. This is a histological slide showing the multinucleated large osteoclast, and it is residing in the edged bay known as resorption bay or Howship's lacunae. And in the bone matrix, you can see osteocytes residing in the lacunae. So the large multinucleated cell with ruffled border close to the bone matrix, it is known as osteoclast. So here are some questions for you to think about. Why is there a depression underneath the osteoclast? This depression is known as your Howship's lacunae, which is going to reside the osteoclast near to the bone matrix, and in this depression it is going to carry out its enzymatic activity. What are the advantages of the ruffled border? Ruffled border is going to increase the surface area for the activity of resorption, where it is going to release the different enzymes and hydrogen ions. So bone resorption and formation that goes on side by side, and they are both are interlinked to one another. Resorption is carried out by the multinucleated phagocytic osteoclastic cells, while bone formation is done by the osteoblastic cell. So both are needed and both are important. We are going to discuss the two clinical conditions which result from either of them being deficient. So both are very important. The resorption is also very important and formation is also very important. This is a histological section, H&E stain, showing different bone cells. You can see this pinkish bone matrix, and in the bone matrix you can see single cells lying in the lacunae. These are the osteocytes, almond shaped. Then over the surface you can see osteoblasts, and osteoclast can be seen as a multinucleated cell residing in a Howship's lacunae close to the bone matrix. So I have told you that both osteoclast and osteoblast, they work in interrelation with one another. You can see osteoclast with a dagger in hand, it is going to dig in and destroy the bone on one end, while osteoblast, the happy one, is putting in the bricks and it is going to form the bone. So both are very important, and they are working in relation to one another. What are the diseases that result if one of them is deficient or one of them is overactive? Osteoporosis. Osteo means bone, porosis means pores. Pores develop in the bones, and this is a disease or condition which develops when osteoclast, the bone destroying cells, the bone resorption cells are more, and it results in immobilized patients and in post-menopausal women which lack the hormones for calcium ions and hormone. There is a hormone imbalance. So in these conditions, there is a more bone resorption than bone turnover. bone becomes weak, fragile, and they are going to be easily fractured. So in osteoporosis, the osteoclast, this bone cell is highly active. It is going to destroy more destruction than osteoblast that can build up the bone. So when the normal balance between the osteoclast and osteoblast is disturbed, when there is more bone resorption than bone formation, it is going to result in osteoporosis. And this results in old age, in postmenopausal women, in when there are some hormonal imbalances, when the patient are bedridden. So it is going to increase the risk of fracture in these people. So this is a diagram showing the normal healthy bone, while osteoporosis, you can see large pores, the bone become weak. There is more bone resorption than bone deposition. Bone eventually becomes weak and is easily fractured. It is commonly seen in postmenopausal women, and the most fractured side is the neck of the femur. Now, how can you can prevent osteoporosis? First of all, you must increase the amount of calcium. Calcium intake should be sufficient. Dairy products should be used. You should regularly exercise, and these physical stimulus are going to increase the strength of the bone. In the bedridden patient, the bones become weak because the normal stresses which we get during exercise and movement, they are not there. Then you should avoid drinking alcohol and cigarette, and you should take adequate amount of vitamin D as well. Vitamin D and calcium ions both play an integral role in the bone deposition and the bone integrity. So what is a DEXA scan? DEXA scan or DEXA bone scan? You must know what is a DEXA scan. DEXA scan is the word used for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, and it is a scan done to see how many X-rays are absorbed by the bone tissue, and it helps to measure the bone mineral density, BMD, bone mineral density. It is important in areas of science, and it is used for the clinical assessment of osteoporosis, in which there is a decreased bone mineral density. And in the individuals which are at high risk of osteoporosis, like postmenopausal women, malnourished people, and in bedridden patients, we go for DEXA scan. First of all, it was known as DEXA, now known as DXA scan. DXA scan is prescribed in patients who are at high risk of osteoporosis to see their bone density and bone mineral density, calcium की deposition देखने के लिए, bone mineral density देखने के लिए, and it is a short form for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. Now we are going to discuss osteopetrosis. Osteopetrosis is also known as the marble bone disease. It is a genetic disorder in which bones get harder and denser, and eventually the bones become weak and they break and fracture out. What happens in osteopetrosis or the marble bone disease is that the bones become heavy and dense, known just like stones. They become stones, and they are known as marble bones. And the reason behind them is that osteoclasts are defective. They lack their ruffled border. They cannot resorb the bone properly. The bone resorption here is defective. So osteoclasts, there is a problem in the osteoclast here. So this leads to more thickening bones. Osteoblasts are working and working. They are making the bone harder, while osteoclasts are not working properly. So the bone becomes so hard, so dense, that even the marrow cavities are obliterated. They are also not there. So if the marrow cavities are not there, hemopoiesis cannot take place. Blood cells are going to be reduced in number and leading to anemia. So the defective osteoclast in most patients with osteopetrosis have mutation in genes for the cells of osteoclast, and there can be defect in the genes for proton pumps and chloride channels. So this is a diagrammatic representation of what happens in marble bone disease or osteopetrosis. You see, in osteopetrotic disease, there is increased thickness of bone. Osteoblasts are the bone becomes heavy and denser, while osteopetrotic cells are not working properly. They are defective. They cannot make the Hauschilp's lacunae, and they cannot make enzymes and the protons hydrogen ions to dissolve the bone. This is a comic representation of what happens in osteopetrosis. So in osteopetrosis, there is impaired osteoclastic bone resorption. The osteoclastic cells are weak, absent, defective. Their channels, chloride channels are defective. Carbonic anhydrase channels are defective. Their mutation in the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, chloride channels, and you can see that the bones become marble like, they become marble bone and defective, hard, and eventually fracture out. Stony brittle bone disease or marble bone disease. For the normal bone, you need, even for the evenly defined bone, you need both normal activities of osteoblast and osteoclast. So if the osteoblasts are working properly but osteoclasts are not there working properly, then the bones become very hard, just like marble. The most common uh, problem that is faced by these marble bone disease or the osteopetrosis is that the bones become so hard that the marrow cavity is even not there. They have no space for the bone marrow cavity, and if there is no bone marrow cavity, the hemopoiesis is not going to take place. There are going to be depressed bone cell formation, causing anemia and loss of white blood cell. This is known as pancytopenia. There is going to be decrease in the number of blood cells.